everything is. One, the Oval Office is a lot smaller than you think it is, and there is a lot more ornate gold crowning, I guess, decoration pieces that have gone up. There is very rarely a spot of clean wall, I guess. That was interesting to hear Trump go back and forth with the ABC News reporter, Mary. Pardon me, I forgot her last name, but this was also the day or 2 days before he called another reporter Piggy, a female reporter, just being kind of disrespectful to specifically female journalists. It was interesting to see firsthand. And how happy Trump seemed to have the Crown Prince, who there were multiple investigations by the Washington Post and a few other organizations that saw that the Crown Prince had possibly endorsed the killing of Jamal Khashoggi, who is the journalist who was pushing back against the regime. And he kind of brushed it off like he was a controversial guy. Not everybody liked him, which was interesting as an official stance when you're the president of the United States and sitting next to a crown prince.
I've got about 30 seconds left, but what was the reaction in the press pool to covering that? I mean, you're the press. This is a guy who, the way they killed this guy was atrocious. What was the reaction in the press pool on that day?
Yeah, I was actually getting emails the whole day from the White House press office and from the White House Correspondents Association about this. Not good, I guess. That's what I'll say. People felt there wasn't a clear answer and there wasn't a definitive, I don't support the murder of journalists, which is really what I think a lot of people were looking for.
Mm-hmm. Joe Reber-Kenny is the White House correspondent for the Washington Blade. We have a link in our show notes and on our website where you can read all of his excellent reporting from the White House and the D.C. nation's capital. Joe, thank you. I hope you have a good holiday weekend. We'll see you back here in a couple weeks.
Thank you guys so much, and you too. And
thank you. All right, folks, in Chicago, up next on WCPT 820 is Chew's Views with Richard Chew. On AM 950, it is the Matt McNeil Show, and we're gonna be off tomorrow. We're gonna have a replay of our conversation with Minnesota Representative Lee Finke. We'll see you back here on Friday.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 in the morning, my phone rang. They said, I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action. Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Computers are a wonderful tool, but every day children are sexually solicited online. Protect your kids online. Visit cybertipline.com. Help delete online predators. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
WCPT Replay.
I am joined once again by David Neer. He is the publisher of The Down Ballot.
The polling of the Democratic Party, the favorability of the Democratic Party, obviously is in the dumps. But the reason why is because Democratic voters are unhappy with the Democratic Party. Republicans are always going to give the Democratic Party a bad rating. But the really interesting thing is that when the choice is between someone you're pissed at for not doing better, in other words, Democratic voters' views of the Democratic Party, and the guys wrecking the country, you're going to still go with the Democrats, even if you're not particularly feeling that warm about them. 2026 is going to be a referendum in the biggest possible way on the GOP and Trump. And I think the important thing for Democrats to do is just keep the focus on Republicans and Trump.
Keep listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk station, where facts matter and truth always wins. Stay informed, stay engaged.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. In a Thanksgiving address, President Trump announced 20-year-old specialist Sarah Beckstrom, one of the National Guard members shot in the D.C. attack, died from her injuries. Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf remains in critical condition, and the shooting suspect is also hospitalized.
The other young man is fighting for his life. He's in very bad shape. He's fighting for his life, and hopefully we'll get better news with respect to him. And the monster that did this is also in serious condition. But we won't even talk about him.
Trump said Wednesday's shooting in Washington reinforces his view that the U.S. should enforce stricter border and immigration policies.
This atrocity reminds us that we have no greater national security priority than ensuring that we have full control over the people that enter and remain in our country. For the most part, we don't want them.
In a social media post last night, he vowed to permanently pause migration from poorer nations. AP correspondent Ben Thomas reports UPS is dealing with a logistics issue just as the holiday shopping season is getting underway.
UPS grounded its fleet of McDonnell Douglas MD-11s after a fiery crash in Louisville, Kentucky earlier this month. 14 people were killed, including the plane's crew of 3, when the left engine detached during takeoff. Now the company says that fleet is expected to miss the peak holiday season as it goes through inspections and possible repairs. An internal memo predicts it'll be several months before the MD-11 fleet returns to service. UPS says it intends to rely on contingency plans to deliver for customers throughout the peak holiday season. I'm Ben Thomas.
This is AP News. AP correspondent Karen Shamas reports on Pope Leo XIV's visit to Turkey.
Pope Leo has received an enthusiastic welcome from Turkey's Catholics as he opens a key day in his first trip. The pontiff opened his first full day in Turkey on Friday by meeting with Catholic priests and nuns at the Cathedral of the Holy Spirit. Later in the day, Leo will take part in the key reason for his visit, a commemoration of the 1700th anniversary of one of the most important moments in Christianity, the 325 AD gathering of bishops at the Council of Nicaea, which produced the Nicene Creed. The Nicene Creed is a statement of faith that Catholic, Orthodox, and most historic Protestant groups accept, and millions of people still recite today. I'm Karen Shamas.
More on this and other stories at apnews.com. I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. A winter storm warning will go into effect here early Saturday morning. We'll see sunny skies here for today with a high in the low 30s. Winds out of the northwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 15. Then for tonight, a chance for some snow here late, cloudy, a low near 25. Saturday, a good chance for snow, 3 to 7 inches possible to accumulate, high 31. And an additional 2 to 4 inches of snow possible Saturday night. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 21. Are you a parent of a 2 to 8-year-old? Listen closely for an exciting offer, then head to abcmouse.com/radio to learn more. By now, you've probably heard of ABC Mouse.
ABC Mouse is like a little one-on-one teacher. It has helped her so much.
We're offering a promo at abcmouse.com/radio to try it for free for a month, then $14.99 per month until canceled. Go to abcmouse.com/radio to see this offer. That's abcmouse.com/radio. Actual ABC Mouse users compensate for their testimonials, sponsored by Age of Learning.
You're listening to WCPT 820, because facts matter.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Friday morning, progressives. Chins up and shoulders back. Guess what? It's the day after Thanksgiving. Welcome to the November 25th, 2025 edition of Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Find my show on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, heartlandsignal.com, and YouTube. Email me at richard@wcpt820.com. Follow me on X, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Blue Sky, Threads, Substack, and Spoutable. And, of course, catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Yes, there you can get Choose Views, featured interviews, Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, It's the Democracy, Stupid with Edwin Eisendrath, Out Chicago, and our other shows and interviews. Make your way over to heartlandsignal.com and check out all of our great stuff there. The guys had a little bit of a break yesterday, so not a bunch of updates, but I can tell you, you make your way there, you're going to find good stuff. Make your way to our website, all of that. I hope everyone had a nice Thanksgiving, safe, whatever it is you did do or did not do, that it was good for you and those that you celebrated with or hung out with. I know a lot of people have their thoughts and comments about Thanksgiving, but at the end of the day, if it brings folks together, then for me, then that's the thing that matters. And Henry and I were just talking about that, how grateful that we got to see family and hang out with some folks and keep it simple and safe. So if you guys are away, make sure your return home, whenever that is, today, tomorrow, or Sunday, is safe. But I hope everybody was able to have a good time and do whatever it is that you do with your family. I was teasing Henry on Wednesday. I said, don't be a full plater. Don't go back once or twice, but don't fill up that plate where you can't see if you can't see places on your plate, you put too much food on the first time around. You should be able to see so you can move some things over. There should be some movement to connect with some of the other food on your plate. Does that sound kind of like my conversations about where we are as a society? Some move to connect with others. Don't just pile everything on and there's no room. We got a big tent and a big tent of food, but make some room. So anyhow, I hope you guys had a wonderful time and it was safe and that you were able to hang out. Today's show, it's Friday, so we have our great friend Karen Byrne from TruBlu Politics Podcast will be with us in the 6:30 hour. I was able to do this wonderful interview with the mayor of Kansas City, Missouri, Quinton Lucas. What a fabulous guy, and really honored to chat with him. And then professor and author Kevin Schultz will be with us in the 7:30 hour. So we're looking forward to chatting with him about all kinds of stuff. But from a history perspective, I might throw him a question or two about the history of Thanksgiving. But in any event, it'll be great to hang with everybody this morning. Shout out to my man Henry, who made it in just like I did. And we are here to make some things happen. But right now, check this out, progressives.
Are you actually worried about this? I mean, it does.
I've been through a lot more challenging things than this, and I am. What I'm worried about is the reaction and what this transmits to the military and the public, which is basically shut up and listen to that guy. And that's not the way our system works. We have loyalty. My oath and every oath every member of the military took is loyalty to the Constitution, not to a person. And he's trying to get some fear out there. And fear can be contagious. Mm-hmm. But what also can be contagious is courage and patriotism. And that's the reason why.
Because the overall effect is that people are now a little more careful before they speak out. People are worried about speaking out. People don't want to say things that they need to be saying. And that's flat out un-American, isn't it?
It's how democracies die. It is right out of the playbook. The playbook of authoritarianism, that's what they do. They try to suppress speech. Every one of us has First Amendment speech rights. And I think the president is infringing on those, and he is sending a pretty strong message. You do not want to cross him, and your loyalty should be to him. It should not. It should always be to the Constitution.
That was Mark Kelly, Senator Mark Kelly, and you guys know the story by now of what has happened, where he and other members of Democratic members of Congress have made it clear to those that are in active duty, and that they swore an oath to the Constitution, not to the president or to any of his underlings that want to threaten, and that they are actually standing up for law and order based on the military code versus what from a dude who's never served, that doesn't have the respect that he likes to pretend that he does for the military. And even his defense secretary doesn't have the respect for the military. Pete Hegseth doesn't respect the military. He respects what's going to be his next meal ticket. In this case, it's the role that he has as part of this administration. Pam Bondi doesn't. Mark Kelly, as he said at the first few moments of that segment, by the way, was on Jimmy Kimmel. No, I've seen far worse. He has. He's literally flown into danger. These punks have no clue. Spin them around a couple times, put a blindfold on them and spin them around a couple times, they wouldn't know which way is up. Spin Mark Kelly around. He's been literally spun around at Mach speed and figured his way home, right, Henry? So we can give this man his props for that. So and I'm really appreciating how so many military men and women are stepping up for him and others. And this is the part that's irresponsible. The threats that are coming toward him now, when his wife was already shot. You remember his wife is Gabby Giffords. Years ago, she was shot by and this was indirectly due to the crosshairs that Sarah Palin put on a post on a website. Okay? So, Mark Kelly is doing the right thing. They said the right thing, and I don't think he's fearful of what they're going to try to do. That this is just, again, a distraction from what? The Epstein files, tariffs, mismanagement, the list goes on. People who are struggling. This is, once again, another distraction. And Caroline Leavitt needs to stuff a pillow in her mouth. She has no clue what she's talking about here. And so I'm proud to make a kind of a little bit of an announcement of something that I'm just excited about and proud of in terms of military service folks and those who stood up to power, if you will, and were not afraid. On Monday, in addition to having Mike Nellis with us and Sarah Jones, I'll have the honor of interviewing retired Lieutenant General Russell Honore. And if you guys don't remember or know who he is the general that during Katrina 20 years ago was the man that stood in the void to make sure that the people of New Orleans got to as best safety as they could when every other system was breaking down. Excuse me. It's breathtaking, and it's what he did. And he stood in the void. He was threatened as well by leadership, chain of command. But he made it clear these people are dying. And there's some documentaries out where he's in a couple of them because it was real time. I watched it real time. Family there, the whole nine. But he's going to be with us on Monday. So just talking about him chokes me up because here's a man that stood in the void during a hellacious time for so many people. And he did it at the risk of the chain of command wanting him to step down and step aside, where you had other people who hadn't served in the military trying to tell him what to do. And so I'm thrilled to have him on Monday. It'll be a great lineup with General Honore and, of course, Sarah Jones and Mike Nellis. So there you go. Tune in on Mondays, guys. I'm going to do my best to keep it together talking with him because he's someone that is truly, when we talk about patriots, when we talk about people who were patriots in this country, this man is the definition of it. Full stop. He is the definition of a patriot a country-loving American. So I'm hyping him up for a reason, but looking forward to talking with him on Monday morning. All right, guys, got a busy show. Let's keep it moving. I'll pass the baton to Henry because he's got to take us to break. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
This is a WCPT Veteran Minute. Captain Hugh Molzak's love for the sea started after he finished high school as he served the British Sooners and in 1918 immigrated to the United States. Within 2 years of joining the Marines, Molzak earned his shipping master's certificate, the first African American to do so. In 1921, Molzak was promoted to the rank of captain. In 1942, the SS Booker T. Washington, the first ship to be named after an African American, was created, and Molzak was offered the position of captain, but he turned it down at first as the Marines did not want to have an integrated crew. Molzak stood firm on his beliefs, stating, "Under no circumstances will I command a Jim Crow," and Molzak became the first African American captain of the first ever integrated crew. Under Captain Molzak, over 18,000 troops were sent to the European warfront, and ships carrying tanks, aircrafts, and ammunition to United States troops in World War II. This has been a WCPT Veteran Minute.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Thanks for being with us this morning. Yeah, so Monday, I'm thrilled about Monday's guest, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So you guys, we'll do our best. Let's give them a couple of Choose Views news items on this Friday, November 28th, 2025. Executive roles abound despite tightening job market. What does that mean? The job market is becoming increasingly challenging for most job seekers, but recruiting at the executive level isn't slowing down, according to Bloomberg. As activist investors and increased mergers and acquisitions activity lead boards to re-examine their corporate leadership, churn is high among CEOs compared to last year. On the flip side, quote, burnout, retirement, and performance pressure are compelling some executives to seek greener pastures, with 66% of respondents to a Russell Reynolds Associates survey indicating they are open to switching roles. AI could replace 11.7% of U.S. jobs, according to a study from MIT, suggests that artificial intelligence could replace, translating to about $1.2 trillion in wages, according to CNBC. Using the, quote, iceberg index created with Oak Ridge National Laboratory, the research simulates interactions among 151 million workers to assess AI's impact. The findings highlight potential disruptions across sectors including finance, healthcare, and professional services. The study is designed as a resource for policymakers and underscores the need for reskilling and training as job risk spans all 50 states. Jakarta surpasses Tokyo as the world's most populous city. Boasting a population of 42 million, Indonesian capital Jakarta has overtaken Tokyo as the world's most populous city, according to the new United Nations report. The city's dramatic jump from a ranking of 33 in 2018 reflects a change in methodology, with the UN now applying its own criteria instead of relying on official national statistics. Tokyo, with a population of 33 million, fell to third place following Dhaka in second with 37 million. 9 of the world's 10 most populated cities are in Asia. And then last but not least, a little Black Friday news. Many Black Friday deals have been in existence all week. But beware if you plan to shop Black Friday, meaning today, some promotions are just hype, according to CNBC, citing Wallet Hub's data. It found 36% of Black Friday sale items weren't money savers when comparing these prices on going back to October 27th and recently November 17th. Once consumer savings expert called it trickery. explaining that retailers often, quote, repackage items despite previously offering similar discounts. Based on an AT&T business survey, more Gen Z and millennial shoppers plan to do most of their holiday shopping on Black Friday today compared to their older counterparts. So there you go. A couple of Choose Views news items on this November 28th, 2025. All right, guys. It's Friday, and Henry and I were like, it's Friday. Can you believe that? Yeah, it is. Which means we have a couple of things that you might want to do if you're hanging out in and around the Chicago area. Raves Giving. How about that? Started on Wednesday, running through tomorrow, 401 North Morgan here in Chicago. This is a multi-day 21 event item by Redline Chicago, and it's for techno artists. For the weekend, it's Raves Giving, something new. Small business for the holidays. What's that all about? Chicago Urban Art Retreat Center's got a gift sale taking place today from 1 to 4 and tomorrow Saturday from 1 to 4, 1957 South Spalding. The Chicago Urban Art Retreat Center is hosting a gift sale featuring local artists. The center will be selling small original works, jewelry, soaps, and more. Gifts starting at $5 and going up from there. And then Rodgers and Hammerstein's Sound of Music Sing-Along taking place today, tomorrow, and Sunday at the Music Box Theater, 3733 North Southport. It is an annual Thanksgiving tradition. The Music Box Theater will be screening the classic The Sound of Music with subtitles so the audience can sing along. And if you can't sing, you can hum. Henry and I like to hum sometimes. Open Space Arts is taking place. The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. The queer-forward stage adaptation is about the dangers of obsession with beauty. That's taking place 1411 West Wilson at the Open Space Arts Theater. And if you want to get out and about, the Farm Bar Rooftop Holiday Makers Market event is taking place today from 5 to 8 and tomorrow and Sunday from 2 to 7 at the Farm Bar in Ravenswood, 1970 West Montrose. Let's see what else we got going on. Bourbon tasting is taking place today. Park and Field, 3509 West Fullerton. Celebrate the special release of Goose Island's 2025 Country Brand Stout lineup. All you can drink. And let's see, a couple more quick little items for you guys to take part in. Let's see what we got. Oh, I know what it is. Six Corners Small Business Saturday starts tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. 4925 West Irving Park Road. The Six Chambers Chamber of Commerce is hosting its own small business Saturday, complete with breakfast with Santa, a holiday trolley tour, seasonal drinks and treats. So there you go. Things to do to get out and about if you're in the Chicagoland area to make the weekend kind of fun. Always like to bring you a couple things. God, I wish I had. Well, I guess I could. We'll see. We'll see as we get into the new year about things to do in other cities. I'll pick a city. Maybe that's what I'll do. I'll pick a city for every Friday. We'll do Chicago, Henry, and then we'll pick another city in the country and things to do. That's kind of fun. Well, if you guys send me some text or emails if you got a city you want me to focus on, and I'll do that. I'll do the work and have that so we can. If you're in this particular part of the country, go do this. So we'll make that part of once we get into 2026. We'll make that happen, I promise you. So, as I said earlier about having General Honore on Monday on the show, right now what I think I'm really learning in watching what we're doing, watching what elected officials are doing, is there is some coalescing. There is some coming together that maybe is not being talked about as much by corporate media. And I'm taking away, I'm trying not to use mainstream media as much because I think we're mainstream media. Yeah. You know, yeah. We're mainstream media. So I'm going to, try to use corporate media because in the sense that they are highly funded and supported by corporate dollars from an advertising standpoint. Mm-hmm. And we know that sometimes they control what the journalists and news people will cover and talk about and how long they talk about it and how frequently they talk about it, et cetera, and things that they just don't talk about. So what I mean by that is I think that the corporate media, from what I'm observing right now, is placing so much attention away from Trump and the administration and the GOP at large, trying to focus on things that are not really relevant, and also still keeping up this garbage conversation that the Dems are in disarray. And I say that to juxtapose it against what I said a moment ago about Dems coalescing, our win 3 weeks ago, wins in different markets and different places throughout the country. All those things are important to the Democratic Party, but you don't see corporate media really talking about that. They want to talk about the things that they think are going to be the distraction so that people aren't paying attention to the successes that we're having. So we're going to talk about it here as much as we can. And in that same breath, we're going to talk about the things that the GOP is not getting done or is doing to harm the country. Sad to hear about the shooting that took place on Wednesday in D.C. Anytime there's a shooting anywhere, in this case, National Guard members were shot. And I have and this might cause a couple of people to be ruffled feathers, but I have a little bit of a thought about this shooting. First of all, it's awful that it happened. Okay, it's awful that it happened, and I know that the first thing that the folks on the right wanted to do, and in the media, is to try to blame Joe Biden for it, because they wanted to blame. It's so interesting, Henry. The minute there's a shooting by someone that might be perceived as someone from the left or an immigrant or someone from, whatever, they immediately want to blame the Democrats, and they want to blame Joe Biden. They want to say it's Joe Biden that created the space for people to come into the country from Afghanistan. Went down that path immediately. I look at this in an interesting way. There's a couple things here. First of all, when it comes to guns, if we get rid of guns, listen, I could care less about the Second Amendment at this point. The Second Amendment is causing people to die because people are using it and manipulating and have bastardized it so much that lunatics have guns. Irresponsible people have guns. I'm just going to call it as it is. What this awful shooting last week with the kids acting stupid. Mama and daddy aren't doing their job. They should know where I'm not blaming the mayor for that. I wouldn't blame a Republican mayor for that. Okay? Because the Republican mayor didn't pull the trigger. They didn't let their children out acting damn fools. So I'm not going to blame a politician for something that mama and daddy didn't take care of. But this is the through line, Henry. The shooting in D.C. was the violence in D.C. was done with the gun. The violence last week here in Chicago with those dumbass kids was done with guns. If we got rid of them, other than for folks in the military and law enforcement having them, we wouldn't have these shootings. And I'm done with this sort of fake defense of the Second Amendment. Get rid of guns for private citizens. We don't need them. I don't need a gun. If you come mess with me and my family, I'm punching you in the face. I might bring a bat to the fight, but I don't need a gun. So we are losing people over this because of the Second Amendment. So what happened last Friday with those dumbass kids was because mama and daddy weren't taking care of their children. That's not Mayor Johnson's fault. And if it were a Republican mayor, I say the same thing. What happened with this shooting in D.C., guns. But I'll say this last thing before we go to break. If the National Guard had not been deployed into D.C., guess what, y'all? They wouldn't have been there as targets. And I know some people don't want to hear it that way. But if the National Guard had not been deployed by this president, then they wouldn't have been there as targets. Because we don't know that he would have gone after somebody else. That's making an assumption. The fact is, the National Guard was deployed in D.C., and guess what? Some lunatic decided to shoot them. So imagine if they weren't there in the first place. Would they have gotten shot? Probably not. Probably not. Think about that. Nobody's talking about that. I haven't heard anybody in the corporate media talk about that. They're just trying to blame somebody. I'm saying the deployment put them at risk. When D.C., Mayor Bowser, and other law enforcement in D.C. metropolitan area was handling business. No worse than it is in any red city in the country. In fact, better in many. but the National Guard's deployment put them at further risk. And we've been talking about this. So here we go. And although I hate that this happened, and this is why many of the military people and congressional people that I've spoken with have said that these folks are following orders. They are. But now somebody's family member is injured and holding on, and one did pass away, I believe. So Republicans and corporate media, you could try to blame Joe Biden all you want to, but guess who deployed the National Guard in the D.C. metropolitan area? The sitting president did, not the former president. Now put that in your pipe and smoke it. Let's go to a break, guys. 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Check Up on Health with Chris Whitting.
Dr. Howard Haidt of Georgetown Medical School campaigns against pain. He says many of the 50 million Americans who suffer from pain don't see their doctors about it. And if they do, they don't feel their doctor understands.
The key to everything in life, whether it be with our children or with our profession, is communication. And the people who are your listeners who are in pain should go to their physician, talk about how it's decreasing their quality of life, and ask what do they think, in their opinion, is the best way to decrease their pain and suffering. And if the physician is uncomfortable or doesn't have knowledge in this area, the patient should ask for a referral to a doctor who does treat and evaluate pain in the proper manner.
Chronic pain untreated can lead to depression. Dr. Haidt says today there are ways to treat chronic pain and stabilize your quality of life without fear of addiction. With Checkup on Health, I'm Chris Whitting.
You are listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. A winter storm warning will go into effect here early Saturday morning. We'll see sunny skies here for today with a high in the low 30s. Winds out of the northwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 15. Then for tonight, a chance for some snow here late, cloudy, a low near 25. Saturday, a good chance for snow, 3 to 7 inches possible to accumulate, high of 31. And an additional 2 to 4 inches of snow possible Saturday night. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 21.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
From the headlines to the heart of the city, Richard Chu breaks it all down. You're back on Choose Views.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show, and thank you for being with us on this Friday after Thanksgiving morning, and Black Friday, whatever people want to call it. I'm just going to call it Friday after Thanksgiving, because Black Friday, yeah, whatever. Yeah, and because of that, we have the wonderful opportunity to hang with our good friend from TruBlu Politics podcast and one of Illinois' top real estate professionals, our good friend Karen Byrne from TruBlu Politics podcast. What's happening, KB?
Hey, good morning. Man, does it seem early this morning? It's just the whole thing. It's dark outside. The traffic isn't heavy. I was like, wait, is this really Friday?
And you know what makes it to that point about the traffic, but with lesser traffic, I mean, it literally is not as light because there's not as many car lights. I mean, I know that seems weird to say it that way, but yeah, there's not as many people on the road this morning. And so as a result, there's fewer car lights to kind of brighten things up a little bit. I know, that's crazy.
That's probably what it is. Yeah, so good morning.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, look, there might be people waiting in line. I hope not. But, we have a blackout. Just a reminder to everybody, we have a blackout from, it was started on the Tuesday the 25th, and it's going to the 2nd.
Yeah.
So if you can avoid spending your money in these big box stores,
especially the ones that have genuflected and bent the knee, and capitulating. Those are our three words: genuflect, bending the knee. That's a phrase, and capitulating. How about that?
Yep, exactly. Shop local if you can. Pay cash. I'm trying to avoid using credit cards and to pay for things. So.
Yeah, very true.
It's hard it's hard in this week because everybody the muscle memory is to get out there and start buying stuff for Christmas. But it's going to be an even aside from the blackout for us, it's going to be a really like Christmas. We're doing the grandkids and that's about it. We're just like, the gift is that you don't have to buy gifts.
That's it. That's exactly right. Just hanging out with the people. You know, listen. I said to somebody that the best thing was we were talking about this yesterday with dinner. Just grateful to be around the people that we care about and that we love, and I tie that to something that I talk about, you and I talk about, and that is one of the goals with this GOP MAGA married up couple is to pull us away from each other. It's to pull the Democratic, to try to pull progressive liberal Democrats away from each other and have us infighting and not caring about each other and putting up these obstacles of connectivity. And that's where I said a moment ago about a coalescence is happening. And even so right now, when it comes to family gatherings, guys, please, please, please put the effort in to be with the people you care about. The stuff, we can get stuff anytime. Right now, the statement needs to be made, like Karen said, that we have to be connected with each other, and it's about family. It's about being in the person's presence or people's presence that you care about. Don't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I think, that is, if there's anything good to come out of, seeing this circus and this nightmare that is the, first Trump term, and certainly it's just driving it home with the second Trump term is that, the people in our lives are what really matter. And the gift is being together and, valuing the relationships with good people who share the same worldviews, honestly, and, are not And I do think, I went to my in-laws yesterday, and they are Republican voting. They have historically been Republican voting people. The fact that none of them brought up any politics, to me, is very telling.
What is it telling to you? What is it telling?
It's there's no bragging. There's no, kind of teasing. There was no needling about anything, whereas before, there would be some, and it was always lighthearted, right? Needling to me about, whether it was Biden or the Clinton. I mean, ridiculous. Like they would say stuff about the Clintons, right?
Yeah.
Like this is just a few years ago. They're still holding on to that. But anyway,
living rent free.
Exactly.
We're living rent free in their heads. Sorry.
Exactly. No, but so the fact that that they're not even bringing it up tells me that they're not probably happy about what's going on. There's nothing that they feel they can brag about.
And at least they don't want to. They probably realize I'm going to look kind of stupid trying to defend this stupidity right now. It's like my kid got caught with his or her hands in the cookie jar. I'm going to look kind of stupid trying to defend that. I might want to reprimand him or her in a learning way rather than say, oh, but that's not the cookie jar. That's the what, they're not the spin that a lot of people have been trying to use for a while when it comes to defending the GOP, Trump and the GOP and MAGA. A lot of people are less likely to use that, which is a question I'm going to ask you in a moment. But I had a similar experience, but in the sense of getting together with in-laws. And what was really cool about it is that the three in-laws that my wife and I got to hang out with yesterday, I can't remember in our lifetime together when we've actually talked in depth about politics or issues that are going. And I know where they stand. They are folks that are, on the right side of these conversations. They're very, very pro democracy, pro balance, pro women's issues. They're there, but we never really had any really, really, for lack of better words, deep. Not afraid to talk about it conversations. You know what I mean? Kind of like people, not that you skip by it, but you don't talk about something else. Talk about the kids, talk about whatever, travel and all that. And we did all that. But it was interesting because my one sister-in-law, she was brutal about some people that she's had some encounters with where she just put it down. And my one brother-in-law, kind of the same thing. And one of my sister-in-law, she was like, and it was so. What was neat about it is a phrase that you use about being around folks like-minded and that are not afraid to talk about it. And I said, my contribution to the conversation is we need more of this globally. And that's to not be afraid, to be encouraged, to talk about the issues, because not talking about them is how we got here.
That's exactly right. Making politics taboo, absolutely. And I've said that for a long time. In other countries, and they sit down. Those are like literally, our friend, Paul Richardson, kitchen table progressives, right?
Yep.
There's, and we talk about kitchen table issues. These are things. This is what it is. It's sitting down and not making it taboo to talk about the issues that affect us all every day of our lives. And, talking about politics as though it's something that we have to avoid or whatever. It is, it's not political. And I've said this, and I know you've said it. This is not about politics. This is personal. Politics will do you, whether you do politics or not. And that is, I hope, what people are starting to wake up to. And, we had these special elections where, the Republicans that were, safe districts for Republicans got flipped.
Yep.
So, when we talk about, we have, Marjorie Taylor Greene, resigning. Of course, she's waiting until she's able to, draw some money, but she's leaving because, and here, this is the thing too, people were talking about how, for years, she's been talking about how she had been under threat and, the left hates me and, they're threatening me and whatever. But isn't it very telling that probably wasn't true? The fact that now she's getting threats.
Right.
Now she's actually getting threats. She wasn't getting threats before.
And it's not coming from us. That's the thing.
Not coming from us.
It never was.
We see you.
It never was. And now she's getting them, but it's coming from the people in her own party. And like Representative Jasmine Crockett said, she goes a week and a half from being on the other side of the conversation about Trump, and she's weak in the knees. And suddenly, so to going back to what Sean Harris said earlier this week, that Marjorie Taylor Greene is showing all of her weaknesses that we've known here in Georgia, as he would put it, there in Georgia for a while, and still not delivering the goods. I mean, here's a novel idea in terms of that. If she feels this way, then, and she really believes in the people of her district, let it be known. I'm not going to run again, but I'm not going to resign until I'm letting you know I'm not going to run again, but I'm going to stick this out as best I can. I'm going to do everything I can to protect the people of my district in Georgia, bring as much to them as they can. She's not doing that. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and then and we've heard this for years, right? Behind closed doors, that, like Claire McCaskill is hearing, the Republican colleagues, saying how unhappy they are with Trump, and I mean, we heard this the first term, all through the first term. Now we're hearing, the rumblings now that Marjorie Taylor Greene has kind of started a trend, apparently, that there are going to be more Republicans resigning and not seeking a second term because they know that they are going to get shellacked and that they are tired of being mistreated by Donald Trump. But, this is the thing that I would ask them. Why are you more afraid, the ego, the hubris that it's because you're getting beat up by Donald Trump, but the fact that it's like you don't care about, you don't worry about your constituents. You're not at all concerned with how, that they're being mistreated by Donald Trump and this administration and the different policies. You don't care that there are people in your districts, in your states, that are, having ICE agents roll up on them, racially profile them and roll up on them. You don't care about that. You're more concerned with the fact that you're getting your feelings hurt. It is just so telling about the Republican Party and where they have been for decades. You and I both know this. I don't know, it's So it's not just Donald Trump. I mean, it's like these people have been around for years.
Yep, that's true. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We're talking to our good friend Karen Byrne from TruBlu Politics Podcast. Karen, you're absolutely right. I mean, they're piebacks, to use a word from the great Eric Grant from the Family Meeting. They're piebacks. Now, all of a sudden, that it's getting a little hot in the kitchen. You know, they can't handle it. They want to get and in their leaving, in their possible resignations and all the rest, they're leaving their constituents, kind of stuck on an island with no help. So in my mind, and there's an article, I don't know if I sent this to you from our good friend Sarah Jones at Politicus USA. Democrats could take the House next year as fed up Republicans say they will resign. Well, if they do, that's great. We hope that they do resign, and we hope that Democrats put people in the races, good candidates that can go in and win those seats. And let's have more than just a couple of vote majority. Let's have an 8, 10, 15, seat majority so we can get some stuff done. And the people in those districts that have been abandoned by their representatives will finally get the things that they need in their communities, which will show them, Karen Byrne, that our ideas are better, our people can get stuff done. When we have majorities, we get stuff done. And I'm hoping that they do walk away. Bye, Felicia.
Well, right. If you don't want to do the job for the people that you're supposed to be serving, then get out of the way, because there are other people that are going to be exponentially more qualified and, desiring to help actually do public service, actually help the people that they're supposed to serve, and not just the millionaires, billionaires, and multinational corporations with big tax breaks. So, yeah, I mean, that, and that's the thing. But, in reality, in the meantime, you guys can get on board with Al Green and call for impeachment.
Yep.
If the Republican senators are unhappy, and if they're talking about, walking away too, or feeling the heat, then why don't you stand with Democrats then?
That's all they got to do.
In the meantime, they could stop it today.
Bingo. They don't have to leave. If they're going to leave, that's great. But that's like I said about Green. Okay, fine. But stick around for the people that you that sent you there, and it sounds crazy the way I'm going to phrase this, but I mean it in the best of ways. Grab all the goodies for your constituents as you can on the way out the door, because that's what they sent you there for in the first doggone place. So to your point, Karen, and I hadn't even thought about it that way, literally the way that you just said it. If you're going to leave and you're done, okay, but stand with the Democrats right now and put a barrier between what the president is doing and your people by standing with the Democrats. I mean, if they're leaving, Karen, how powerful would this be? This just would go to show how patriotic that they could be. If they said, you know what, this dude is wrong, and we're going to stand with the Democrats and make a statement. I'm leaving, so I don't really care what he has to say. I'm going to stand with the Democrats, and maybe we call for impeachment. Maybe we'll have some numbers. How cool would that be?
Yeah, stand by the Constitution. Stand by the people, who, are out there and they celebrate July 4th and they, say that they love this country so much. And now we're finding out, seeing their rural hospitals being shut down and seeing their, premiums, insurance premiums, and by the way, this is private insurance premiums. Okay. So, the big lie that, the ACA was government insurance, it was absolutely all along a lie. And it's like, and maybe, maybe there are some that, they themselves were drinking the Kool-Aid for so long that they couldn't, see that. And it's just anything to push back against a Democratic president, and a black one at that, especially, but they've never been on board. They have never been on board. They in 2010, they let people lose their homes. They let people continue to lose their jobs. They let our economy continue to crash, instead of just getting on board and helping the people, after COVID, what did they do? I mean, can you imagine how much more Obama could have been able to get done? How much more
in the midterms?
Biden had been able to get done?
Oh, honey, please! If we had held the House. And to some extent, blame's not the right word, but responsibility does lie in the laps of the people that didn't show up in the 2010 midterms. And I know that we go back, and sometimes we have to go back to learn lessons, just like we can go back to 2024. And what did we learn? We can also go back to 2010 and say, had voters shown up and not been so proud, I voted for Obama, I voted for the black guy in 2008, but shown up in 2010, you imagine how much more things they would have been able to get done, and the cascade of other successes that would have come from that. People say, well, Obama lost the midterms. No, people didn't show their behinds up in that midterm because they were still hanging on to their pride of voting for the black dude in 2008. That's a fact. Right. So here we are again, but we know this time around, Karen, to your point, and I don't want to rob your point, that the Republican Party, if they were truly down with helping people, they would say, you know what, I'm going to stout up for the folks. I'm going to get with the Democrats. We're going to get some things across the finish line. I'm leaving because I'm done with this. I'm going to go do something else. This is just not working. And the next 2 years of my life are going to be a hellscape under this administration. And if they're going to leave, grab as many goodies for your constituents on the way out the door that you can. I don't know. Yeah. Call me crazy.
No, exactly. And the fact that, I think a lot about John Boehner. I'll give him this.
Go get us in trouble, girl. Cut that out.
But I think about him, do you remember the point at which he decided finally he'd had enough was after the Pope, after Pope Francis came and addressed.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
And it was just and he's, in tears, and he was just so, because they know, see, this is the thing. It's like when they are shown the mirror, when somebody holds up the mirror to them, that's when they start realizing that, and that the grift isn't worth it. It's just not worth it. It's not worth selling your soul. And look, we're all at some point we all have to look at ourselves, and we're all going to be have to face the consequences of our actions. But it's one of those things. It's extremely telling when that mirror is held up in front of them.
Yeah. Isn't he a weed dealer now?
He is a weed dealer after all the war on drugs.
He's a weed dealer now.
Yeah. Demon weed, oh my God, it's a gateway, gateway to all this other stuff. I mean, it's been such a grift. They have been able to get away with this grift for so long. And I just hope that people are starting to wake up so that we have a chance. And, the fact that, these amazing Democrats stood up and addressed to the military, members of the military, members in these different government agencies to say, your duty is to the oaths that you took to the Constitution. And by the way, they never once mentioned Trump.
Yeah.
They referred to the administration. They never name-checked him, ever in that video. I went back and looked at it. So literally all these people that say they love America and American people and, and the Constitution, it is just, it's all a lie. Because and then you're going to have, KKK Caroline Levitt come out there and just straight up lie, misrepresent. Well, it was implied. No, it wasn't implied.
No,
there was it wasn't implied. They specifically said illegal.
Karen, here's the thing about it. Listen, first of all, Caroline Levitt, and this is just putting you and me on Front Street. She's young enough, or we're old enough to be her parent. Okay. So let's start there. So she doesn't know much about what she's talking about. She's just reading script and all that. But Caroline Levitt, snatch her outside of the confines of this and put her where she doesn't have the defenses of being in the White House, and she would get grilled to death. So let's just start there. And other than being a mean girl only goes so far because there's another mean girl that's going to be meaner than you. But if she had to go up against another, quote, mean girl, they would drag her across, the floor. So that being said, this person is who they want in that role because she can go into nasty B mode at any given time and not have to worry about the repercussions. She could call somebody piggy or other nasty names, the N-word or other, and she probably wouldn't suffer any consequences for it. So that doesn't, but that doesn't mean she's strong or bold. That means that she just knows she's got the protection. Why? Right. The reason I'm saying that in relationship to what you just said is the Republican Party, these members of Congress who were saying it might be time to go, they started to realize that they're vulnerable staying. They're more vulnerable staying than they are going. Because they know that they want to speak out. They want to do what those military folks did, but they don't have the safety net of knowing that if they speak out, that the Republican machine right now won't come after them. And I think that that's why there's even more strength from the Democrats who say, you know what, we don't care. We're not leaving. We're just saying you swore an oath to the Constitution, not to this guy and not to the administration. And that to me is the courage that we know that they can represent. So
absolutely. And Democrats, and let me just say this before I go, but and this is the opportunity that Democrats have to get in like they were doing before. I mean, think about all of the town halls. It really hasn't been in the news lately, but all the town halls where Republican constituents were showing up and challenging and confronting their Republican representation, right? Yep. And Democrats then, some Democrats were moving into those spaces and meeting with the constituents. That has to be a full court press at this point.
Every single location.
Out there, every location, start talking to these people, go door to door if you have to, but at the very least have meet and greets, town halls, so that people can, talk and have their issues addressed.
Check this out, Karen. If there's a list of those 6 or 8 Republicans, I think that's the number that are thinking about resigning. If that's out there, if that's if the Democratic leadership knows who those folks are, if I'm Hakeem Jeffries, you know what I'm doing? I'm saying, okay, you, these, we're sending you, listen, you got to go do a town hall December, 12th, that Friday. Do it in unison. Go to all 6 or 8 of those districts and hold a town hall at the same time. Let the media know we're holding a town hall in the district of the representative that says that he or she may be thinking about resigning. Put the pressure on them now. Don't wait for them to resign. The fact that it might even be out there that they've been talking about it. Let's go get them goodies now. Do you know what I mean?
Pick up those seats. Pick up those voters. Get out there and start talking. Yep. Talking about the things that really matter, because people are feeling it. People are literally feeling it right now. Yep. They understand. They're starting to understand what the difference is. And, part of that is because the Democrats have been holding their ground, and they've been, they have not been going along to get along. That's right. And that's what they should, honestly, that's what they should have done a long time ago, but I'm glad that they're doing it now.
That's right.
So that people can feel, because they have to. People have to feel it before they understand it.
Henry is waving at me to say, you and Karen have to shut up because we have to go to a break.
Oh, no.
I know.
All right.
All right, girl.
Thanks for having me. Thank you so much. And you have a wonderful weekend, everybody. I love you all. And, hug those loved ones that are with you.
Absolutely. Hey, listen, and be safe if you're out on the road, everybody. Karen, you as well, because I know you're going to be out and about. Thanks for being with us. Have a great weekend. Right. We'll talk to you next week. Sounds good?
Bye.
All right. Let's go to break, Henry. 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820. And, of course, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
I know that hiring can be challenging. You sort through tons of resumes and you get too many so-so applicants. You're just waiting for someone to match your role perfectly. Well, now, there's a place where you can meet them fast. ZipRecruiter.
Need to hire right away. Start your search for strong candidates. The right right fit awaits. Build your team, build it sooner. Meet your match on ZipRecruiter.
Just head to ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try it for free. And you're on your way to meeting your match. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. So try it now. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Meet your match on ZipRecruiter. Try it free.
Steel. Check off the wish list with instant savings and free battery offers on select Steel tools. Shop online or in store. Now that's a steal.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. President Trump announced yesterday Specialist Sarah Beckstrom, one of the 2 West Virginia National Guard members shot Wednesday, had died. As part of a Thanksgiving call with U.S. troops, Trump also said 24-year-old Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf was fighting for his life. The suspect has been identified as Rahmanullah Lakanwal, a 29-year-old Afghan national who worked with the CIA during the Afghanistan war and moved to the U.S. as part of a program to resettle those who helped American troops after the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. AP correspondent Donna Warder reports on a meeting between Hungarian President Viktor Orban and Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Hungarian President Viktor Orban met with Russian President Vladimir Putin at the Kremlin Friday in hopes that Hungary will be able to continue accessing cheap Russian oil and gas, which have come under sanctions by the U.S. government. Orban told Putin that Hungary is suffering significant economic losses as Russia continues its war with Hungary's neighbor Ukraine, and that military operations are blocking economic growth throughout Europe. Hungary is one of only a few EU countries to continue importing large quantities of fossil fuels from Russia. And Orban says switching to fossil fuels sourced from elsewhere could cause an immediate economic collapse. That's a claim some critics dispute. I'm Donna Warder.
Former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte will remain in detention at the International Criminal Court after appeals judges today rejected a request to release him on health grounds. Duterte is facing charges of crimes against humanity for his alleged involvement in dozens of killings as part of his so-called war on drugs when he was in office, first as the mayor of a southern city and later as president. This is AP News. AP's Lisa Dwyer reports on the release of an American teenager in Israel.
Mohammed Ibrahim, an American teenager held in Israeli custody for 9 months, has been released and then immediately checked into a hospital. Visibly thin, head shaven, and still in a gray jumpsuit, Ibrahim wiped tears away as he was embraced by family members shortly after his release in videos taken by the Kadur family. His father kissed his son and began to cry. The teen was visiting family in the West Bank with his parents when he was arrested at his family's home one night for allegedly throwing rocks at Israeli settlers in the West Bank. In an affidavit, Mohammed said he only confessed to the stone throwing after he was threatened by interrogators with a beating. His family and lawyers say he was held in poor conditions. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
And I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. A winter storm warning will go into effect here early Saturday morning. We'll see sunny skies here for today with a high in the low 30s. Winds out of the northwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 15. Then for tonight, a chance for some snow here late, cloudy, a low near 25. Saturday, a good chance for snow, 3 to 7 inches possible to accumulate, high 31. And an additional 2 to 4 inches of snow possible Saturday night. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's $21.
Menards Black Friday sale is here. Get everything you need to bring home the holidays. A Nerf Blaster dog toy blasts tennis balls 75 feet. Fun for you and your pup. Just $15.99. Delicious to buy chocolate is $12.99 a bag. Color-changing squish lamps and Performax drill bit sets are only $4.99 each. Menards has great Black Friday gifts for everyone in your family. Hurry in while supplies last. Good through November 30th. See menards.com for details.
Season's greetings to you all from Menards.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Hey, guys, welcome back to the show. The Choose Views featured interviews and full episodes podcasts are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, iHeart, YouTube, and Amazon Music. Search for Choose Views or visit their new podcast page at heartlandsignal.com/podcast. Today on Live Local and Progressive, Joan is out. She'll be replaying Monday's show with guests Joe Winebanks and Joe Walsh. Live Local and Progressive weekdays 2 to 5 here on WCPT. And tonight on Driving It Home, Patty Vasquez will be joined by guest host Adam Selzer, and their guest is political cartoonist Scott Stantis. Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez weekdays 5 to 7. 5 to 7, y'all. On WCPT AM 820 Heartland Signal website, TuneIn and YouTube, as well as Facebook. Like I said, next week, Army General Russell Honore will be with us. North Carolina Democratic Party Chair Anderson Clayton, Ohio Congresswoman Amelia Sykes, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, plus our Choose Views regulars Sarah Jones, Mike Nellis, Rico Moad, Dante King, and of course Karen Byrne. Had an opportunity to have a wonderful interview with the mayor of Kansas City, Missouri, none other than Quinton Lucas. Hey, progressives, welcome back to Choose Views. You know, local elections in this last few weeks have really mattered more than ever before. We saw what happened in of course, the Virginia and the New Jersey governor's races. We saw what happened in New York. We saw what happened in Mississippi, Georgia, Pennsylvania. Local politicians, and I mean that in terms of state legislatures as well as mayors, have really, really been the folks that are stemmed the tide right now. We've been attacked by federal government, ICE troops, all these things, taking away programs that are needed in local municipalities. But when we have mayors like Quinton Lucas in the great city of Kansas City, Missouri, not Kansas, let's get that right, Kansas City, Missouri. It's always a joy and a pleasure to give them their flowers and their praise because they're working hard to make sure that they take care of their city. Mayor Lucas, welcome to Choose Views, and thank you for being with us this morning.
It is an honor to be with you. Thank you for what you do in centering progressive voices, real talkers in the center of our national conversation.
Yeah, it's a blessing for me, an opportunity for me to do that. And one of my goals is to amplify the voices. I've been saying for a long time, Mayor Lucas, that it's so important that we really have to take back local. It's the foundation, frankly, of our politics and political structure. We know the federal piece is important, and we can't look away from that. But on a local level, we've got to make sure we take back, because that's the stuff that, I mean, you not literally, but you can snap your fingers and make something locally happen because you've got your hands on those local assets and tools and resources. So I'm just trying to make sure that we highlight as many of our local city managers, and mayors, and of course state legislatures, as I said before. So let's talk about it. 2019, you step into the fray, and you make it happen, and you got reelected in 2023. Talk a little bit about your journey. You were an elected official prior to that.
Yes.
Law degree. You've got the what would we say? You've got the credibility to be in the role. But talk about, from 2019 to 2023 and 2023 till now.
Let me start way back at the beginning, right? So I'm born and raised in Kansas City, born and raised by a mother who struggled and toiled and took me and my two older sisters on the bus to get wherever we were going. So knew a lot of challenges, but it gave me the chance to see I couldn't just go be a rich lawyer somewhere. I still remember like it was yesterday, right? So I'm from the Midwest. So to make it big in the Midwest, you interview with some big Chicago law firms. I'll forget which one I was at, looking over Lake Michigan. I'm like, man, I'm going to be rich. But, I thought I think there's a different path for me. I think I went through all of this struggle, not just, no offense to people who make that choice, but not just to make some dollars for me and my family, but to really try to make a difference for kids who grew up like me. And so that led me to go back home after school. I then ran for city council a few years later, had an interesting time. We're on the exact same mayoral cycle as Chicago. So I think, the Trump administration version 1, I just said we got to do something different. And I think cities are the centers of great opportunities. I think in Washington, you see less and less getting done. In our state capitals, you get a lot of infighting. You have their own politics. But I was like, man, if I give people more housing, pay people better, give them jobs, help the buses move a little better, maybe I'm doing something right. So that got me to run 12-person primary. So that means that if you got that many people, you need your mama and her high school friends to vote for you. You can get through. And so that worked out for me. Won. And after 19, it was real off to the races from there.
It's interesting that the fact that Kansas City, Missouri is on the same mayoral cycle as ours. We've been blessed here in Chicago. Some people might think I'm crazy in saying this, but I made a point of highlighting what Mayor Brandon Johnson's doing here and talk about Brandon Scott and talk about Michelle Wu and talk about Karen Bass and other mayors of cities, blue cities, particularly in some cases, blue states that are doing the work. I don't think any of you guys are in that role to cause harm and do stupid stuff consciously. Now, you may miss the boat on certain things, which is going to happen because that's part of being in a role of leadership. But I say this to anybody that criticizes me for supporting what you guys are doing. And I almost forgot Mayor Bowser in D.C. I don't think any of you are in that role because you want to see harm come to the people that have elected you. You want everybody, even those that didn't vote for you, to be in a better spot. And to increase those, the pay and the medical care and the safety and all those things. Talk about what that means to you to be a mayor, African-American mayor, in a city that is purplish in many ways. You may define it a little bit differently, but you've got colleagues, you've got brothers and sisters throughout the country that are navigating some of the same tricky waters that you are in the city of St. Louis.
I think what you said is right. And I know all those mayors. And what I would probably say is this, that you hit the nail on the head. We are there to try to make things right. And for a lot of us, and I would argue, and I love people of all colors, don't get me wrong, but particularly for us black mayors who lived the story of our cities, who lived sometimes the toil that our community's been through, you're not trying to pick a fight with the police. You just recognize how they could be more effective too, how they could be safer, how investing in these neighborhoods can make a difference. You're not trying to start your day and say, hey, President Trump, come notice us. Brother Johnson in Chicago has never went out looking for a fight on Trump. I know some people who do that. That's not him. Instead, he's trying to say, I'm trying to run a city, trying to figure out a world of problems, and the administration came on them. Same thing with Karen Bass, who, if you have a chance to ever get to know her, one of the kindest, most decent people in political office, who came back to L.A. from being in D.C. because she was like, you know what, I want to make real changes on the ground. So, it is a challenge each and every day. I think the other thing that has changed about the world, the media ecosystem has always been tough, but, for people who call me and say, you're being so partisan, whatever, I'm like, that's foolish. No, I'm trying to work with anybody who'll make life better for people in Kansas City. What we're seeing a difference now is that everything you say is viewed through a prism of what Fox News puts out or conservative media or what a bunch of radicals are saying on Facebook. So no longer is it, mayor of city trying to do X. It is radical liberal agenda in Chicago, Kansas City, Los Angeles, trying to obliterate whatever. And, and I think the other thing that I say sometimes tongue in cheek, but he finally let it out the other day. I think the president of the United States, who is a man of the city, right? Man from New York City, made most of his money there. I think he just wants to be a mayor one day. That's why he talks about all of us. That's why he's so interested. We could have saved everybody time if we just let him be mayor of New York City rather than the whole country. And, might have worked out not for them, but maybe for us.
Well, and Brother Mandami is said, not just yet, not just yet.
That's right.
We got some stuff to do that, right. Indirectly one could say was the fallout of this dude that made his bones here in New York City. I like the way you put that though, and as much as I can get into the nuts and bolts of your day-to-day activities, I think the larger lens for all of us is we have to look at things that are happening on a local level as part of the national conversation and vice versa. The national conversation is now impacting local, and it's being seen by things that are being taken away from local markets, local communities. And I know that, the phrase is, everything's local, and it's true, but everything right now everything is national. And we have to, I believe that we have to have this conversation where we're connecting each other. My objective part of my objective with the show is to say, you know what? I want to talk to the mayor of Kansas City. I want to talk to the mayor of Portland. I want to talk to the state legislatures in Wyoming. Why? Because if we can show the connection and that we're better connected than we are apart, and typically our ideas as a Democratic Party have been better for a larger swath of people, then I think that's a tool that we all get to use to say, see, we're making things happen in these different markets all over the country, these different communities. So let's see what's working there. Let's see what they're doing. And how can I glean from that? And how can I share some things with them to make it better for their community? And that's one of my objectives, Mayor Lucas. And I don't know if you see it that way or nuggets from that, but I am curious.
I think yes is the first answer. And I love that you mentioned the list of places you want to hear from. The person from Wyoming, the person from wherever. Because let me tell you something about my politics and how I view a lot of the politics of people that I associate with. I think I'm right. So I'm willing to go to Wyoming. I'm willing to go to the middle of Missouri because I tend to think, right, people do want their kids learning in a good public school. I tend to think that they want their mama or their daddy to be able to have good health care as they age. I tend to think that people want good infrastructure and good jobs. And so I am not abashed about any type of position that I'm in, because even on the hot button controversial issues, people are human beings. And whether that hot button issue is the value of human life, no matter where it is, in the Middle East, in Middle America, anywhere, whether it is an issue that relates to how we make sure that everybody gets to make decisions for their own family about their health care, that to me is, basic humanity. And so I wish more Democrats, something I've been doing. Now, Brother Johnson doesn't get to do it yet because he hasn't been reelected yet, so he should make sure he stays in Chicago. But I've done some road shows around my state and the state near me that take me to smaller communities. And part of the reason I do that is to share that, look, your community is worth fighting for, and I'm gonna fight for you, because if I can lift you up in Springfield, Missouri, if I can lift you up in, Waterloo, Iowa.
Joplin.
Right, absolutely. Then I can lift up Kansas City. I can lift up Chicago. We can lift up New York. There isn't, politicians say it's a cliche, but it really isn't one. There isn't that much difference from the day-to-day struggle that somebody who is working their tail off is experiencing in the city of Chicago, population 3 million, compared to somebody in Joplin, Missouri. And once we get through all the different stuff, and maybe you're riding a train versus driving, maybe you're doing whatever, you're trying to do better for you and your family. And so I think those types of conversations are essential for us. And I think a mistake the Democrats made, we have gotten so into the science and the data. When I talk to those in the know nationally, those in Washington, they're talking about what districts we can fight in, what places can our voices be in, all that sort of stuff. And we miss the boat every time. We got a man from New York City, thrice married or whatever, who's president of the United States now. And I don't begrudge him that. I ain't in his personal business. But all the things the data used to say would mean you couldn't do something. Right now, he's shown us. So why don't we clear the same path and understand that human beings want to do better for them and their families? And I think that's what a truly progressive message is, no matter where it is spoken.
Without a doubt. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu, and we are talking with Kansas City, Missouri Mayor Quinton Lucas. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. Let me roll back a little bit to accomplishments and also goals and objectives of you that you have there in KC, empowering women leaders, LGBTQ commission, mayor's commission on reparations, increased wages for city employees, marijuana pardon program. Talk about that and how it's impacted the city, and frankly the state for that matter.
I'll start with the marijuana pardon program. And, I think the most important part of all the legalization discussions that have occurred in recent years is to look back on the impact that we had on people who were denied opportunities and continue to be denied opportunities based on that past conviction. It is people talk about a whole of government approach. I say a whole of humanity approach to how we actually solve problems. So it's not enough just to say, all right, going forward, everybody's all right, because let's be honest, because enough suburbanites, enough people with money are all using this or all part of this, and we don't want them tripped up. I want to go back and say, what about the many people who were? And so I think that what we need to do is to make sure that, we're laying down pathways that aren't just the best policy, but that are actually ensuring real systemic change for the people who've been most negatively impacted. Same conversation on LGBTQ commission. And you know what? And that's been an interesting discussion through my life. Because I'll admit, look, any of us who lived in the 90s know a very different America and a different world, including in our own community. And there I'm talking about the Black community. Mm-hmm. But, I have seen a lot of people who come to me and talk about ongoing impediments to their ability to succeed, ongoing stereotyping, ongoing issues. And that's where I say, you know what, if I can make your life a little easier, if I can help you succeed in Kansas City or elsewhere, then I want to be there for it. And that's kind of been the core of most of our truly strong policy changes. And I think that's why you saw a conversation in a number of American cities and these mayoral races in 2025 that spoke back once again to the progressive viewpoint on issues.
Yeah, it's great to see. I want to go back to something you said a moment ago about being unabashed and unafraid, to use a word, but to put the positive spin on it, being confident and knowing that you're right. And our policies are better. Our ideas are better. I had the fortunate opportunity to have David Jolly, former Republican in Florida that's now running for governor as a Democrat in Florida. I had him on my show earlier, or not too long after last year's election. And one of the things that he said to me is that, Richard, we didn't lose this national election and even some of the others because our ideas weren't better ideas. Our ideas are better. And we have to stop apologizing for pushing the envelope with better ideas and better strategy. And we always say this. It's almost like we say this for cover, Mayor Lucas. We're not perfect. Well, we know that. It's inherently, we know that. But at the end of the day, our ideas are better, and we shouldn't apologize for them. We should embrace them and yell them from the top of the stadium that we are in the position, or our goal is to make things better for everybody. Even if they didn't vote for you, you're not running the city of Kansas City because you just want to work with the people and support the people that voted for you. You want to make sure that all Kansas City residents and state residents are doing well. And that's a baseline of our objective, because our ideas are better.
What I think that I would say to that is, there is a marketplace and a competition of ideas. And there are either ideas that help lift up our community, or there are ideas that will keep us where we are. Yep. Nothing breaks my heart more. And I'll admit there are a few places like this in Kansas City, as I'm sure there are in Chicago and elsewhere, where ain't nothing changed over my entire lifetime. And, you sit back and you hear the excuses and you hear the reasons, but you realize, I got to do better. I have to make sure that young person, and that I'll admit is what I'm primarily doing this for, that young person knows that, you know what, there are opportunities for them, they can succeed, that there is no limit to what they can be. And I'll even center it in the world of gun violence, where we have far too much, although it is declining in my city as it is yours. People don't believe us, but you look at these 30% downward trends, you continue to see the progress is being made, which, by the way, is progress being made in large part because we started investing more in violence interrupters. We started investing in community violence intervention. We started investing in activities for our young people. Police budgets, by and large, contrary to what some try to tell you, haven't changed. They're still big. We're still filling up big pensions. We still respect the women and men of law enforcement. What is the change that we are seeing? We are seeing that in each of our communities, we are doing more for the people involved, because I don't want, it is heartbreaking. Nothing breaks my heart more, and I bet every other mayor. If you read a story about a 15-year-old, usually black, usually male, victim of a homicide. When I first became mayor, a shootout in my city, 15-year-old boy ends up in a park getting chased down, ends up shot. Things like this happen too much in America. I met his mother, and what I was almost certain of is I don't ever want to do this again. I don't want to be consoler in chief for my community. No mayor wants to do that. And I'm not going to lie and hide behind traditional talking points or tropes. It is very attractive to put a whole bunch of money into the same thing people have been doing forever and say, hey, look, I did that. Look, we got money. It's good. We'll be fine. It's also easy to say, look, shiny object over here. The Chiefs are in the Super Bowl all the time. We've got the World Cup in soccer coming. Hey, y'all, look, Kansas City's great. All of that's wonderful. But we need to actually find a way to solve the problem long term. And I think that's why, and I encourage people. I'm never going to tell, a different community how to vote necessarily, although I make my endorsements sometimes. As you think about your mayoral elections, whether in a big city, in a suburb, in rural America, think about who cares about you and your community. That is the biggest difference now. Not who is adopting the parlance of national press, but Democrats on that side too. We can't just take what whoever we consider a party leader right now to be saying. Think about who knows your community, who's trying to fix it, and frankly, who's willing to expend political capital to do it. I have been blessed by ribbon cuttings. I've been blessed by Super Bowl parades. I know that there are great parts of being mayor, but you need somebody who's going to do the work.
And that will look deeper into the community to say what's happening over here is not right. And the systemic problem can be fixed with investment in that community. And it's just like anything, we use this example a lot here in Chicago, and I know you've got your versions of it based on neighborhoods, but we talk about, well, what's working in a northern or western suburb of the city of Chicago or southern suburb, or any community and a zip code where the children are doing better. It's not because the parents are better people, or because the parents are worse people in a different community. It's because of the investment in the community by the community. And in the community, that community means the city of Chicago, the city of St. Louis, the city of Boston, LA, the list goes on and on. If we invest in that, the city is going to be better because the people will see that it's better and they will be striving to make it better. They want to protect that which they have a belief in. And when I look at some of the federal missteps in terms of current investments in other countries, I think, well, wait, what the heck are we doing? Yep. That money, I've done this, simple math. I've done this simple math a whole bunch of times, Mayor Lucas, where I said, well, we could take the $170 billion that was allocated to ICE and divide that into the top 10 or 20 cities in America and solve if we want to solve problems, there we go. We could, and I've done that in different categories. I'm a financial advisor in my other life, but the point I'm making is I get the numbers. So let's invest in our communities and have meaning behind it, and then stop getting excited by the shiny objects. I love the way you put that. More of that happening means the country actually, the cities are better, the communities are better, the country's better. I don't know. That's maybe right. I'm crazy.
No, that's right. That's right. And I think, what I will say, I don't want too many rivalries, too many fights, but I'll say this as we think about mayors in America. It is in some ways indisputable nationally that Mayor Daley the Younger was an exceptional mayor. The reason being because of the growth of many parts of Chicago, the brand, and all of that. That being said, something that was always interesting to me is just as a person watching was saying, wow, there are very real homicide records. There were a lot of very real challenges, not diminishing anything that somebody did, but why don't we evaluate Black leaders on the same curve, it seems, that we evaluate others? Whereas for us, we get into office and immediately our cities are murderous hellholes. We get into office and every issue that has ever existed, immigration and beyond, is something that we need to fix almost immediately. And if we don't, then you need to take power away from us and our people. I don't get that. What I argue is the best mayors are actually the people that are understanding that investment in our people is the most important thing we can do. The thing that makes me go crazy in Kansas City, I'll be sometimes with downtown business executive types who say, we have a workforce challenge. And the way we're going to solve that workforce challenge, and y'all do it in Chicago too, we're going to get kids from every Big Ten school. They're going to come from Indiana and Purdue and wherever, in Ohio State and USC, and they're going to move here, and that's great. And I like people, so I got nothing wrong with them moving here. What about the kids who are here?
Right.
How much easier is it if I take a young
brother
or a young sister who lives here today? I don't have to do the whole move here from Indianapolis or Portland or whatever. If I can build you, I have in my city, so I know y'all got more. I have tens of thousands of Black 20-somethings, Hispanic 20-somethings, who actually, if we gave them the skills, the training, the opportunity, and the pathway, could lift this city up like nobody's business. And don't get me wrong, we would still be able to get the kid from Ohio State because they want to be in an interest.
They want to be, that's exactly right. And that's the part that a lot of the detractors, it's not that they don't, they get that. See, I don't give comfort to they don't get that. They get that because they wouldn't work so doggone hard to push it back if they didn't get it. You don't fight for something you don't know about or don't know about because you'd be wasting your time. It's the detractors exactly know that that's the case. You and I could go down that path, way down that path where we need a lifeline to pull ourselves back, which I won't do that to you this morning because I have two requests as we wrap up, Mira. And I so appreciate you hanging out with us this morning. First request is to come back on the show because I'm really pushing forward to talk, like I said at the beginning, with more local officials and making sure that we build their brand and highlight what they're doing because it's important to me. It's important to what we're trying to do to amplify those voices. So that's the first rule. My second request is we have to figure out a way for you to help me get Ms. Karen Bass on my show because I would love to talk with her about being on the show. And I know I'm putting you on the spot there. But last but not least, Mayor Lucas, help our listeners here in Chicago and all over the country find a way to make their way to what you're doing, how they can follow you and be a part of what the mayor of the city of St. Louis is getting done.
You know, I'm on all the different social media, so, just try to look me up there, Quinton Lucas in Kansas City. But I think more to the point, I just want you to get involved. So, try to do what you can. I'm not going to tell somebody who's struggling each day that you need to do 1,000 different things. What I will say, though, is whether that is actually responsibly chiming in on social media, going to the first of several meetings, finding a tenants advocacy group in your community, which is something that I know is growing in a lot of places. Don't think that you cannot make a difference. One voice can be powerful, even in the biggest of communities. So that's where I think I would say hop on in and, we can make change. I didn't know I'd be able to. I didn't know a bunch of other people thought they would. Zoran Mamdani was a 34-year-old state assemblyman a year ago, 33-year-old state assemblyman.
33-year-old, yeah.
Who everybody was saying didn't have a chance. Look at him now. So keep believing. That's probably the most important part of all.
Absolutely. Mayor Quinton Lucas of the great city of Kansas City, Missouri. Thank you for being with us on Choose Views. Look forward to having you back.
We'll see you, sir. Take care, everybody.
You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
My perfect day has sand, salt water, and friends. But my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can take me out of the moment. Now I'm all in with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi. Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, most people saw 90% clearer skin, and many were even 100% plaque-free at 4 months. Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis. Visit Skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Still struggling with gas, bloat, constipation, nausea, or diarrhea? Have you tried eliminating foods but felt no change? It's time to call the tummy whisperer, Renee Barish at Digestive Health Solutions. Renee uses targeted testing to reveal exactly what's happening in your gut. Gut bacteria plays a key role in all your body functions, from cardiovascular regulation to brain function. When the gut is imbalanced, you may experience symptoms that extend beyond the gut, such as anxiety, skin issues, poor sleep, or increased risk for disease. Digestive Health Solution uses advanced testing to identify harmful microbes and evaluate the overall balance of the gut ecosystem. Get insights into your health, digestion, and how your microbiome affects all aspects of your body. Stop suffering. Call Renee now at 847-207-2034 or visit thetummywhisperer.com. That number is 847-207-2034. Let's get you feeling better. The Tummy Whisperer.
You are listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. A winter storm warning will go into effect here early Saturday morning. We'll see sunny skies here for today with a high in the low 30s. Winds out of the northwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 15. Then for tonight, a chance for some snow here late, cloudy, a low near 25. Saturday, a good chance for snow, 3 to 7 inches possible to accumulate, high 31. And an additional 2 to 4 inches of snow possible Saturday night. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 21.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
Richard Chu's got his eyes on the truth. And you're right where you need to be. This is Chu's Views.
Wow. I love that fancy music. I mean, they send it to me and say, "What do you think, dude? What do you think?" And I'm like, "Okay, it sounds good to me. I'm good with that." It's great to have an interview with Mayor Quinton Lucas from the great city of St. Louis, Missouri, and he's a historian, just like our guest is this morning. The doc is with us this morning. Professor Kevin Schultz is hanging out with me this morning here on Choose Views. Good morning, Kevin. Welcome to the show. How you doing? Mayor Quinton Lucas from
Good morning. Happy Thanksgiving. I'm happy to be here once again.
I know what it is. So yeah, well, we were this morning. We were joking around during the break about the fact that so many people. Hopefully they weren't plate fillers when it comes to their Thanksgiving celebration. So I got to put you on spot and ask you, are you a plate filler or do you go back second and third times to get your fill?
I always start out strong. I go for the high ticket items first that I really like, and then I go back for the second, but then I pick the more choosy for second and thirds. And then I love pie. I love pumpkin pie. I love pecan pie. So I got to make sure I save room for that. And then I'm a seconds guy. You make that turkey sandwich a little later in the day.
Yeah.
That to me is the real money right there. That's when it comes in real solid.
That's when you get the itis also, and it puts you to sleep. So,
hey, that's all right. That's all right.
There's right. Oh man. So listen, Dr. Schultz, it's good to have you with Professor Schultz, I should say, to have you with us this morning, as always. And I know you're probably having a well-deserved break from the classroom and from all your duties at at school at University of Illinois. But how did things end up this week, this short week? What was the sense of feeling around the campus in terms of, this is the first Thanksgiving since Trump was put in office, and we've got ICE in so many communities throughout the country, and folks trying to feel comfortable about hanging with their family and being out and about. But what was the sense on campus, if you were able to get any kind of a temperature read of people and what they were thinking and feeling?
Yeah, great question. The sense, and you know me, I always come with a dose of optimism, and I tend to maybe see the glass half full, which I know about. So know thyself, right? Yeah. But there was this sense on campus. Two things struck me on campus. One was a sense of sort of normalcy, which is sort of what you want. You want students to be, preparing for finals and thinking about how their school semester is going to end up, as opposed to thinking about how they're going to help their parents get food on the table for Thanksgiving, or whether or not their grandparents are going to be disappeared by ICE. So it was a kind of a sense of normalcy around school, which I no longer take for granted. I actually value that sense of the everyday in a way that I probably should have before the everyday altered so drastically in the last 6 months or so, the last year now, I guess. The other part on campus that I really took to heart, which was more than just the today, but definitely the last couple of weeks, is a sense of, if we stand up and fight, we can win. And in the last month or 3 weeks or whatever, with the National Guard troops being redeployed to North Carolina, and the number of ICE arrests being, down in the city of Chicago, and it just sort of the temperature has seemed to cool a little bit. And the words of our governor here in Chicago and our mayor here in Chicago seem to have provided a model for how you fight back in this kind of environment. And look, I'm not going to lie to you. There were ICE agents that were arresting lawyers and activists in my children's elementary school not too long ago. And a lot of those suburban moms that were arrested, if you remember that story about the suburban moms that were arrested, they were all my neighbors here. And so it was kind of exciting to see how people could just sort of wake up, become active. This stuff is starting to affect more and more communities around here, and people are waking up. And when they protest, well, they have now a record of having some signature victories. Yeah. And so I would say that the students, my student body is a third Latino, and half of them, their parents never went to college. Half of them are Pell eligible. They're on Pell grants, which means their parents can't afford to pay for college for them on their behalf. So we have real vulnerable people at our school here at UIC. And I would say the sense was sort of one of excitement and sort of what I was mentioning earlier, kind of a glee to get back to the everyday and to worry about finals instead of worrying about whether or not you're going to be arrested on the Clark and Lake stop at the L train,
That is good to hear, Professor Schultz, and I love the fact that, guys like you and me, we have to be observant and critical of what's not right, but do it in a way that is about the glass being half full, and how we can be sort of a motivating force or planting our flag and saying, not on our watch. We're going to do our best to make sure we can move this thing forward and protect people along the way. And you said something that I think is what a lot of people may not necessarily want to admit or acknowledge, and that is we've taken some people have taken some things for granted. And I was having a conversation last night, as I said earlier, with some in-laws about the thing that we have as an opportunity to go forward is to recognize that we all have probably taken certain things for granted in our lifetime, and the comforts that come with that, the privileges that come with that, and et cetera, et cetera. We don't have that luxury anymore. And that's not to say that as an indictment or a punishment. It's actually to say it as a tool of inspiration, that when we recognize that we kind of probably took some things for granted, we probably let some stuff slide and didn't pay attention. I mean, let's just all be honest about that. But then say, now how we're going to use that to strengthen us as we go forward and not let this happen again. That's going to be, I believe, our new superpower. So I'm like, let's keep talking about it, y'all. No longer are the days where we can't talk about religion and sex and money and politics. No, we got to talk about that stuff right now, real time, because if we don't, we'll be back here all over again. And so it's great to hear that you have kind of recognized that power as well.
I was inspired by what Mayor Lucas said right before I came on when he said, get involved. You know, it doesn't have to be a big ask. It could be just responding properly to a social media text, or it could be volunteering for whatever cause moves you the most, whether that's the ACLU or Planned Parenthood or whatever that cause is. Just spend a couple hours every month working towards that cause, showing up to the protests where you think you're going to be valuable and where you think your voice needs to be heard. There is power in that kind of movement, and we've seen it happen here.
Yeah.
The other thing that I want to mention is the sort of level of excitement around campus had to do with that mini blue wavelet, we'll call it, not a blue wave of the elections that happened, but when we saw those electoral returns, not just Zoran Mamdani, which we were just talking about, but also Abigail Spanberger and Mickey Sherrill and the mayor of Seattle, and even down ticket items. Those were showing, I think, two things is what I took from it. It put on display how frustrated voters are. Our listeners, of course, are probably included in those voters who are very frustrated. Not just Zoran Mamdani, but they're eager to turn out no matter sort of, you know, how the message is spun. And I do think it sort of put on display that civil war that you and I have talked about going on in the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
And I think the lesson that I got was it doesn't have to be, you know, the Byrne bros or the abundance bros. It doesn't have to be the Democratic Socialists or the liberals or however we want to categorize those people. But it has to do with centering the everyday experience that Americans live, focusing on the cost of living, focusing on the big fears in people's lives, whether that's the paying for health care or paying for college or childcare for your kid, and you need to get back to work, and childcare is so expensive right now. How can we address these bread and butter issues? And when we start talking about those issues, regardless of what party you're in, this is the lesson.
Yeah.
Regardless of which faction of which party you're in, you're going to have some authenticity with voters, and they're going to turn out to support you. And that was why we had that mini blue wavelet in the early days of November.
I agree, and it comes back to coalescing. It comes back to saying, hey, wait a minute, hold on a second. Don't you get what and I'll just say it again, what corporate media and corporate voices in many cases are trying to do? They're trying to squash professors from talking to their students, from educating, from bringing good light and energy to students. They're trying to keep us from connecting with each other, and in doing that, taking away our ability to coalesce and finding out that in this big tent, the guy or gal that's on that part of the tent, we may not be down with everything they're down with and vice versa. But guess what? In the big picture, we got a lot more in common. Let's stop fighting about the things that we don't have in common and start amplifying the things that we do so that we can go forward and have our talking points be at the front of the room rather than the talking points of the opposition, which we then end up bickering over, which is it's just a waste of time. So I agree with you. The election on November 4th, not just the big elections and the big ones that we're hearing about in terms of those governor's races in New York City, but I've said this a bunch of times, Professor Schultz. Mississippi, what happened in Mississippi was huge with the breaking of the Senate. We were fortunate to have Dr. Johnny Dupree, who's one of the senators that won on a state in the state of Mississippi. We had him on the show earlier this week, and he talked about that. He said, he said, Chu, we made it clear that a lot of the solution is going to come through the South, and we turned out good people who, kind of what you just said, Professor Schultz, that we talked about issues that we have in common and less about the ones that we don't have in common. And that seemed to be a message that was strong. So it's exciting to hear that you've got a temperature of what's going on the campus and how your students are feeling. That's very, very encouraging.
Yeah, it's exciting. And, like I always say, whenever I'm feeling down, I talk to my students, and they bring an energy and an excitement. And I guess what I'll say is also a continued belief in the American dream. Mm-hmm. Even though they're living with all these tensions and they have multi-generations living in their household and they're taking care of grandma and they're focused on different varieties of their studies and stuff like that. But they're there for a reason, and that's because they believe in the American dream. They want it to be expanded farther than it has been expanded historically, and they certainly want it expanded farther than Donald Trump and the MAGA Americans want it to be expanded. But there is still this belief that really powers me and provides so much energy. So it's a delight to work with those students.
Yeah, and that's one of the I think is so cool about being in education on any level right now, but certainly on a collegiate level, is you've got young adults who are making some decisions or at least observations about their future. and you're able to take that and help mold it and craft it and give them guidance, but also sit back and watch what they're doing, what they're bringing to the table. And these young voices really are having impact. I want to, again, going back to talking with Dr. Dupree, he said, Chu, the thing that I really want to be able to do, he said, I want to do this for a short period of time and get some things done, but I want to be in a situation where we can merge our age and wisdom with the youth and energy and get some great stuff done. And so that was encouraging to hear him speak in that level. And he's an educator as well. So when I realized that you and I were going to be talking this week, I thought, gosh, I got the bookends of professorial messaging in my head this week. So it's a great way to start the week off and a great way to finish things up. So kudos to you, Professor Schultz, for keeping it real and certainly keeping it real with your students, because I know that's got to be one of the attractions to them being in your class and just talking with you about things that are going on right now. So that's so cool to hear.
Well, it would.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. No, you go.
I was going to say it wouldn't be a history lesson with Professor Schultz unless you got a little history. So what I'm reminded of when I engage with my students and when I hear what they're fascinated by is the early 1930s, when the economy was in tatters. This is the Great Depression, as we all remember from our high school history classes. And there were revolts going on. Consumer revolts were huge throughout the country. In Seattle, there were food revolts, mostly led by women, traditionally mothers, and they were breaking into pantries trying to steal bread to feed their kids. And they were using the power of the pocketbook, deciding when and where they were going to spend their money and who was going to be a fair operator out there. And there was all this tension, and there was this pushback against this vision of America that had been pushed by 12 years of Republican presidencies, that was a return to normalcy, by which they meant sort of a white Protestant monoculture. There were push for immigration reforms that were wildly effective in 1924 and in 1929, these two huge immigration laws that get pushed through Congress. One senator said, close the door. That was his mantra, to close the door to immigration. So they were really pushing to put this vision into place. The largest social organization in the United States was the Ku Klux Klan, which had come back in the 1910s and 1920s. They didn't just hate black people, but they also hated Jews and Catholics and immigrants. It was sort of a four-prong attack to preserve a certain vision of America. And starting in the late 1920s and 1930s, we see these revolts. There were these consumer revolts. They were a big tent of people. And when Franklin Delano Roosevelt comes along in the summer of 1932, he sees this energy. A lot of the energy was coming from the left, just like what we're seeing today with AOC and Bernie Sanders and Zohran Mamdani and the Democratic Socialists. A lot of this energy was coming from the left. He knew that the powerful forces of the left and the center could come together. And when they were together, they represented a good 2/3 of Americans.
Yep.
And so he tried to craft a way and craft a vision to bring these together. And he did. He called it liberalism. We've talked about my book, and this is where this is all coming from. This book I just published called Why Everyone Hates White Liberals, Including White Liberals. # always plug your book, right?
That's right. or else I'm going to.
And he was successful. He channeled all of this energy and all of this anger and all of this frustration into a vision that became the New Deal, which was one of the most transformative legislative moments in American history that really created an economic floor for all of us to push and leap off of into success. Of course, he left out people. He had to tie these Gordian knots about should black people be included. He couldn't do that and get the votes of the Southerners. So it wasn't a perfect bill, and I'm not saying FDR did everything right, but he did this push to invite as many people into the tent as possible, and it was wildly successful. Now, I'm not saying we've got a modern-day FDR out there, but what I am saying is I'm inspired by what I'm seeing now, which is the ability of the left and the center to find common ground, to imagine what a big tent left liberalism might look like. And the reason I'm so animated about it is, frankly, because I'm afraid of what's going on the other side, which is really a fundamental rise of authoritarianism and a transformation of democratic norms. The thing that terrifies me the most about what's going on the right and with MAGA is these redistricting efforts, this attempt to try and take away democracy from the American people. And this is the thing that I'm most fearful of. I'm glad there have been setbacks this month, which is another cause for celebration, but I'm not convinced that fight is won yet. So I'm excited to see what California's voters have recognized. I think that should take to heart how Americans generally feel, because California is a big state. It's a blue state, but it's got Central California. It's got these components that represent all factions of the American political spectrum. So I think that there's this general pushback against that. And there is this sense that if we're talking about the right things, there are all these electoral possibilities, and there is reason for hope.
There's a huge, massive reason for hope, because I think a lot of times, Professor Schultz, we forget about the importance of incremental wins. Sometimes you aren't going to just have a massive, true wave or true tsunami, as some people have said in recent years. It's the incremental, because I think that oftentimes when it comes to getting involved in a process, that some people are intimidated by big shift and big move and big things, and so they need a little nibble. They need a snack to feel like they can be impactful and effective. And when it seems too big, people can be turned off or intimidated and kind of like, well, I don't know. And then what happens is somebody else steps into that opportunity and takes it in a direction that's not good. So we have to remember the importance, I believe, of the incremental, the local, the neighborhood activities and successes, because then we get to stack those. And, the young folks call them stacking chips. We get to stack political and social chips and keep doing that. And that spreads faster than people realize, because then you suddenly look around and go, well, how did that happen? How did we get that? How did we get that? And you turn around and you go, well, damn, we got the whole neighborhood. We got half the city. We got the city. We got the county. And you know what I mean? So that to me is where I'm like you in terms of the glass half full. I'm staying optimistic. And I want to circle back and not forget that something that you said earlier before we wrap up. And gosh, this went by fast. What you said about what the examples of Governor Pritzker, Mayor Johnson, and our elected officials here in the state as an example. There are politicians that I've talked to in other parts of the country that have literally said, you all were an example for what we have to prepare ourselves for. Charlotte is a good example. They've said it. There's other people that I've talked with that have said, you guys led the way in giving us an example of how we fight this. But those were incremental. We didn't have 10,000 people out at every location that I showed up. We had 2 or 3, then 20, then 50 moms and dads and uncles and aunties. Incremental. And that's got me excited. We're not going to rest on our laurels, to your point, but doggone it, we get to be excited about that. And we have to just keep those small wins and repeating them. I
actually think I'm with you 100%, Richard. I think those incremental wins are actually, there's a way to see them as even more important than, say, a big win at the top of the ticket. Of course, that's important. But if you build this incremental structure underneath it, it'll have legs. It'll make that top change last longer. Look, the example we're living with right now is the Republican infrastructure that's been built over the last 50 plus years. In 1971, Lewis Powell wrote a memo, the Powell Memo, and he talked about how the Republican Party was sort of in the wilderness and needed to construct a conservative movement from the ground up, from think tanks, from local officials at the city and county level, and then build up from there. And if that actually succeeds, then we'll have a whole infrastructure and we'll be able to push all of our ideas down and they'll take effect. And that's basically what the Republican Party has done so successfully for the last 50 years. And I would say that, look, I have this program, this sort of thing I'm trying on social media. It's called the Rule of 60. It's on Instagram. It's on TikTok. And what I'm doing is I'm going issue by issue through American life. A is for abortion. B was for how Americans feel about Black people. C is for how Americans feel about college. So I got 26 of these things. I'm working my way through, so I'm not done yet. And the thesis that I'm working through is that on any given issue, about 60% of Americans believe in something. There is this grand center, and this grand center is more to the left, I would say, than most Americans think. I mean, look what I found. 74% of Americans are comfortable with raising the minimum wage to $20 an hour. 63% of Americans would advocate free college tuition. We can go 70% of Americans say raising children is too expensive and universal child care should be something that is on the table. Only 13% of Americans believe that abortion should be outlawed at all times. When you see the debates over abortion, That you would not know that. There's this huge disconnect in the rhetoric. And if you actually look at it issue by issue, now, if you say, are you pro-life or pro-choice, then you get sort of a 50-50, 55-45 kind of thing.
Right.
But if you actually ask specifics on the issue, the center is more to the left than we've been led to believe. It's kind of a shocking thing.
Well, so that means that we've got to get you back on maybe quicker than normal. I know the holiday, Christmas is right around the corner, and we got to wrap up today. So look at your calendar. I know we normally have you on a certain, but we're going to rotate you in quickly because I want to talk about that. I know people are going to be asking me, Chew, you got to get us more information on that. Professor Kevin Schultz, thanks for being with us on this Friday after Thanksgiving. I'm glad you're well. Big high five to you and the family. A couple weeks we'll be back on. We'll talk about this data. Does that sound cool?
It sounds great to me. It's always good chatting with you.
Be safe. Talk with you soon, okay?
All right. Be well. Have a great weekend.
You too. Bye-bye. All right, guys. Wow. The doc and I ran right up against the my goodness. But his data is so powerful. Stay tuned for the Stephanie Miller Show. And remember, take a deep breath and make your life count. We'll see you next week.
This is a WCPT Veteran Minute. In 1939, when Europe was on the brink of war, a single mother was bringing Jewish refugees into her home, teaching her two daughters to help others when you can and fight injustice. Freddie and Charles Offerstegen took their mother's advice to heart, joining their mother in distributing anti-Nazi newspapers and pamphlets for the resistance, a dangerous act when the Nazis invaded the Netherlands. But with the girls being young, Freddie being only 14 and Charles being only 16, Nazis were less likely to suspect them